That's very nice. Thank you. I'm fine. I sit all morning at my desk when I'm getting my traffic information together. So how many of you guys actually are up early enough to watch morning news? Hands. Okay. So just take a guess. What time do you think I get up?
3.
Who said 2? Bing, 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 you win. I'm up at 2 a.m. We have a very stringent schedule in the morning. There are 3 women, 1 guy, and we all have our designated makeup times. And if I am 1 minute late, I'm taking away 1 minute from that next person who is after me. So I usually get there between 3:10 and 3:15. I'm in makeup at 3:20. I'm out at 3:45 for Judy. I go in and finish up. I get my traffic information together, and we are on the air at 4:27. So it is a very tight schedule. When we started, let me backtrack a little bit. I went to college just down the street here at Columbia. I am a local person. I grew up in Chicago in the north suburbs. I went to school here, and this is the only market I have ever worked in, which is really, really off the grid. I mean, that's very unusual. I'm sure you've had many guest speakers, and your instructors will tell you you need to go to a smaller market, learn, get experience, get the nerves out of your system, work your way up. I came from radio, and even that in itself is kind of unique because I never left this market. I've always worked in Chicago. I'm very, very blessed. But after graduating from Columbia, I had an internship, which led to a part-time job, and I have been working since graduation. I've been working here basically all of my professional career, which is amazing. I started doing traffic 6 months after I graduated from college. I had been doing some radio work up in Waukegan, a station up in Waukegan, part-time. And I heard that there was a traffic service and they were looking for, they had entry-level positions. So I put together an air check, and they said you didn't have to have traffic experience. They just wanted basically that you had a good sound. So they hired me, taught me how to do traffic. It was my first full-time job. So in December of 1980, I started working morning drive. I've been doing it ever since. It's a long time to be getting up early. Not quite as early as I do now. In radio, I worked a split shift. I would do the morning drive traffic. I would go home for 4 or 5 hours, come back and do the afternoon drive. That's a grueling schedule. That's a real rough one because you're done with work, but you're not really done with work because you have to go back. It's like having 2 jobs. So that was kind of rough. But I did radio for 9 years, and then in 1988, I heard that both Channel 7 and Channel 5 were starting a morning newscast, because at that point, the only thing they did were these little news briefs during the network shows, the Good Morning America and so on and so forth, the Today Show. So they were going to start a half-hour newscast, both these stations, from 6:30 until 7, and they both wanted to incorporate traffic, which had never been done in a television news format before, only in radio. So all of us radio traffic people decided, we're going to put together, an audition tape, and we're going to go for the job. But the thing is, none of us had any TV experience. We're all radio people. So I talked to the radio department chair at Columbia. And see, here's another, I digress for one quick moment. A wonderful thing about going to a school like this, where you have somebody like Bill as an instructor who is a working professional and he has done what he is teaching, you're networking immediately, which is so fabulous. You have a standard of excellence that you see and hear every day in Chicago. You know what radio and television is supposed to be like. So you know where you want to eventually be. And then you've got people like Bill who can assist because you're networking. So I did that. I went back to my department chair at Columbia, and this is after I had graduated. I'd been off the air, out of school for a while, and said, hey, I need to put together a reel. I have to put together an air check for TV. I've never done that before. I've only done radio. So he put me in touch with a production company, again from Columbia grads, and they helped me put together an audition tape. which, you know, I had done some like commercial things. I'd done some other things in TV, so I did have a little bit of on-camera experience, but not in a news format. So, long story short, I applied for the job. I didn't get hired because they said I didn't have enough experience. Really, they called me in and sat me down on the set, and I choked. I was like a deer in headlights. It was terrible. And so I sat down and went, wow, who is my competition here? Everybody else who auditioned for this job did the same thing. Chroma key, if you've never done chroma key before, it's very disorienting because it's like looking in a mirror but backwards, because you're pointing here but it's really coming out over here. It's the opposite of where you think it's going to be. So all of us totally messed up chroma key. We couldn't do it. So everybody failed, epic fail. So I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to write another letter and say, Mr. Ahern, I wrote this to Joe Ahern, the general manager, and I said, I understand that I don't have as much experience as you would like. However, I do have experience in traffic reporting in Chicago. I've been doing it for 9 years. I'm from here. I know my way around here. And I'm a quick study. So I guarantee you, if you hire me, I can go out there and within a week or two, I will be just as good, if not better, than any other reporter you have on your staff. Okay, bluff, right? So I went back and I made another audition tape because now I had an idea what they were looking for after going in and having this big epic fail. And it was a little bit better. You know, I sat down on a pseudo news set and I went, and the traffic, blah, blah, blah. Alan, back to you. I mean, I did the things that I wouldn't have known to do before. And he hired me. So they trained me not only to do traffic, which, you know, we came up with the idea of putting the maps in the chroma key. I mean, none of this was all new territory. And then he had me follow Alan Krzyzewski around for a week and learn how to be a reporter. So not only did I get hired doing traffic as the first, you know, TV traffic reporter in this market, if not many, many markets, but they also gave me on-the-job training on how to report for news, which was fabulous. They said, okay, you're gonna have the traffic beat. You'll do transportation stories. And that was in March of '89. I've been there ever since. God bless, man. And I'm very, very lucky. I was in the right place at the right time, and I relied on people who I had met along the way from school and in the industry and in the business, and just, you know, worked toward a goal. So that's how I got where I am. How I stayed where I am, I don't know. I work really hard. We went from a half-hour show, 6:30 to 7. Then we expanded it to an hour with 2 anchors, because when we started, it was just Alan Krzyzewski was the anchor, Jerry Taft was doing the weather, and I did the traffic. It was just the 3 of us. And then they expanded it to an hour. They brought in Kathy Brock, who she came in to do mornings. Now she's doing our 10 p.m., right? She's been doing the 10 for a while. So they expanded it to an hour, then an hour and a half, then 2 hours, and now we're at 2.5 hours. And I do believe there is one other station that goes on at 4. If and when that ever happens, that's going to be kind of rough. But, you know, you do what you do. Because the thing is, in television news, because the way the industry is going, our morning show really is the only one that has any room for expansion. People are finding their news from so many other sources. How many of you, and I know what the answer is going to be without even asking it, but how many of you use other sources such as your phone, your tablet, your computer to get your news before you turn on the TV? Everybody, right? Just about. I mean, that's not your first place that you go, oh, I have to get home at 5 o'clock to watch the news. Yeah, no. Not even in my generation. I mean, really, it has changed so drastically in the 24 years I've been doing this. So the morning show does have room for growth, but at the back end, you know, going on earlier instead of expanding it later, because we have other programming that we do. You know, we can't cut into the network. The network is on from 7 until 9, so the only room for growth is at the other end. And it wouldn't surprise me if that does someday happen in the not too, you know, distant future. So we'll see. But in the meantime, I still go out and cover stories, not as many since we're on for 2.5 hours, because if you can imagine, I get in around 3 o'clock. By the time I'm off the air at 9, I've already put in a 6-hour day. And to start a story at that point, to finish it and turn it to air that day would be another 6 or 7 hours. So it's very hard to do that. I do it on occasion, but only if I know I don't have a real heavy day the next day, because I have to sleep. And that takes its toll too. I mean, right now I average about 6 hours of sleep a night during the week, which is hard. We need to get more sleep than that. You guys, I don't know, you're young, you can handle it, but I'm a little bit older. So you need to get a little bit more sleep than that. And if I'm working a 12 or 13 or 14-hour day and then I have a short turnaround, I have to come back the next day and look awake and sound awake and be coherent and know what the heck I'm saying. It's hard if you're not well rested. So I try to balance. Today I have an interesting story that I'm doing after I leave here. I'm going back to the station for a little bit, and I did make an exception with my rule of not doing things later in the day, but I've got a 1 o'clock interview with several members of the band Chicago. You guys know who Chicago is, right? Please tell me you do, so I don't feel so old. 4 years ago, they started a charitable event called, and let me know how I'm doing time-wise, Sing with Chicago, where people can bid online for a chance to get up on stage and sing with the group, one of their songs. I mean, they picked the song, but, and the proceeds go to the American Cancer Society to benefit breast cancer patients and survivors. And I am a breast cancer survivor, so this event really appealed to me. And when I found out they were doing it 4 years ago, I inquired and I did a story with them. Great guys. They are so down to earth for people who have traveled all over the world and have so many, platinum selling albums. They're just amazing. So I did the story, how they were doing this charity, and people would get so excited to get on stage and sing with them, and it was making all this wonderful money for a wonderful cause. I'm revisiting that story because 4 years later, not only are they benefiting the American Cancer Society, but now they're going, one of their shows will also be benefiting juvenile diabetes, the Ron Santo Foundation, because of the Chicago connection here. So I contacted their manager and I said, hey, I'm really interested in doing a follow-up. They're going to be playing at Ravinia in August. So, but I said, I'd like to get my interviews with them before that because I want the story to run before they're here so people can bid if they want to participate. Okay, well, they're going to be here on Tuesday. Why don't you come and have dinner with us? Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So we compromised, and I said, I'll come over to their hotel and do the interviews today. But knowing that I only have to be there for a couple hours, then I can go home, and tomorrow's kind of a slower day for me. So, but I mean, would you pass up that opportunity? Heck no. It's kind of a cool thing to do. So that's a little bit of what I do. Let me open this up for questions, and we'll see where it goes, and I can talk about other areas of my job, but I'm sure you guys have questions. So ask away. Don't be shy. I don't bite. I promise. Who's interested in doing television, in doing news or anchoring, or, I don't know what your interests are. You have to tell me. Who wants to do on-camera work? Who wants to do production? Back there. Tell me.
I have a question.
Ask.
Not for saying.
That's okay. Go.
Do you have to be in a union to?
Yes. In Chicago, you do. In smaller markets, not always. But yes, I belong to AFTRA, which is now SAG-AFTRA because we merged, which meant that I got to get movies and watch and vote for the Oscars, which was very cool. Yes.
Yes. How you get into a union? Good question. How do you get into a union? That's the question.
Well, I guess you just kind of call them and say, I'd like to take this job and I have to be in the union. And then they will tell you what your dues are because you have to pay dues. I've been a member of AFTRA for so long. Actually, I'll tell you an interesting story. When I first started doing traffic with the traffic service, I organized AFTRA there because they didn't have union there. And I thought, well, this is not right because when you're working for a traffic service, you're almost like a subcontractor because I wasn't being paid by the radio stations I was on. I was being paid by the traffic service who would in turn get paid from the radio stations. So they would get away with not having us be union. And at the time, really, seriously, guys, back in the day, we got insurance for free. Oh, when does that ever happen? But we did. So I thought, well, I want to be a part of this union because I'm going to get benefits. I'm going to get, retirement money. I'm going to get medical insurance. So I organized. And a year and a half later, I got fired.
Classic story of someone who's organized. Yes, right.
Not that they're really related, right?
Right.
But They will tell you have to be a member of the union in order to work there, and then you just contact them. I mean, it's not something that, am I good enough to be in it? No, you have to be in it. And then based on your salary is how they determine what your dues are.
Most of the time, in terms of unions, because I'm in NABIT, which is the National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians, okay, and that's usually the camera guys and the writers and different things like this. So I'm in NABIT, which NABIT is at channels 5, 7, let me think, we're at 32. So that's where NABIT has jurisdiction. At channel 2, and at channel 9, and at channel 11, it's IBEW, or it's IATSE, depending on what your duties are. And of course, the talent is SAG-AFTRA. But I mean, if you're a camera person or an audio tech, which I've been, if you're a director, which I'm in the Directors Guild of America as well, so I've got 3 cards. And so I'm on the Midwest Central Committee of the Directors Guild of America as well. But usually what happens is, when you get the job, just as Roz explained to you, you have to get into a union. And so they say, okay, you got to get into a union. I think the only one that I found difficult to get into was the Directors Guild of America, because at that time, they don't do it now, but at that time you had to come up with the whole amount of the initiation fee, whatever you call it. And at that time, it was $5,600. So I literally had to go to a bank, borrow the $5,600 and pay it back. There was no, we take a little out of your check stuff. It was, you had to put the whole thing. We don't do it that way now. And I think a lot of it has to do with Jeff Kaz and myself being on the Central Committee. Jeff Kaz is the director for ABC7 that directs the 10 o'clock news. We thought that was really tough on young people coming into the Directors Guild. So we, sort of made a point of trying to get that steered around where it could come off your check. And I think it does come off from every other union check. I think so. I know it did for NABIT.
It does for NABIT. For us, for SAG-AFTRA, I just pay it. But you can pay it quarterly, twice a year. You don't have to pay it.
No, I'm talking about the initiation fee.
I was going to tell you the initiation fee for AFTRA. It's been so long that I've been a member.
Right.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think it's around $2,500 or $3,000.
It could be. It's been a long. I mean, really, I joined 1981. Right. It's been a long time.
The Directors Guild initiation fee has actually come down a little bit, but it's still over $5,000. I think it's $5,100. So it's actually come down a little bit. So that's what happens when you're getting into a union, because all of the stations here, well, just about all of the stations here, have union contracts. So if you come on, you do have to become a member of the union. Somebody had a question? Yeah.
There are different unions. Do you pick which one you want to go to, or you fall into a category and that's where
It depends on your job. Certain jobs belong, unions have jurisdiction over those jobs. So if you're going to be on the air, anything on the air, if it's a union shop, then you're in SAG-AFTRA. What Bill was saying, for the technical things.
Right, if you're a camera operator or an audio person or a robotics camera or, maybe even lights, depending on, it depends on the shop you're in. You're going to probably be in NABIT if you're at channels 5, 7, and channel 32. Those are NABIT shops. Also, I should point out that Univision is a NABIT shop as well. So, because I've worked for Univision as well. The only channel I haven't worked for is channel 38 here in Chicago. Every other channel I've gotten a check from. So even 60 and 62 and 66. But 44 is a NABIT shop as well. So it depends on what the channel has assigned to it, or they've created an agreement with. And then, very much like Roz says, it depends on what your job is. So if you're on the air talent, you're going to be SAG-AFTRA. If you're a camera operator, you're probably going to be NABIT. Well, you are going to be NABIT at Channel 7. They also have a stagehands union.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're a stagehand, that's a different union. I think that's IATSE, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so too.
Yeah, right?
I think so.
Yeah. But at Channel 11, it might be IBEW. Depending, again, everything is very laid out. This job is, you do this job, you're in this union. You do this job, you're in this union. So you find out very quickly, and you also find out very quickly
what you can and can't
What
do.
you can do.
It's nice. Yeah, I knew you were going to go
Right,
there.
right.
In the very beginning, we could not